second one is invitation to the Chinese New Year. And the third one is a request from Economic Development to support
Community and Agriculture Partnership Grant Program.
Thank you. We're adding two invitations, one for the Chinese New Year and one for information session for Alberta Health. And the third one is a late report on a request for supported letter for
Community and Agriculture Partnership Grant Program.
So there might be two additional later invitations. So, sorry, I'm not sure where where does he,
So one under administration for Alberta Health Services
okay, I got that.
and one under Community Services Canada Premier Food Corridor, request for letter of support.
Yeah.
And an invitation for Chinese New Year in Calgary.
Okay. And Morris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if, but did the manager, did she get a letter from the North County Potable Water Board by any chance yesterday?
Yes, we did, and I did speak to the president, and we are going to have a meeting with him before he comes to council. So he's working with the director of municipal services and myself. I spoke to him after the letter.
Oh, no, that's good because they indicated on Monday night that they would like to have it on council today, but that's good then, thank you.
Any other additions? No deletions? Okay, need a motion then? Was? As amended. Any comments? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Has everybody had a chance to have a look at the minutes of December 17th? Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none? Steve?
I'll move the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Not, call for question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. So we have no notice of motions. No unfinished business. Okay, let's move down to item G1, pages 97 to 125, bylaw 18-032. And that is a bylaw for Corey and Jacqueline Woodward to amend to the land use. Hillary, could you give us on that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just bring up the aerial photo just so you can get your bearings on where this particular application is at. Or not. We will say that that's not going to work. So, in your agenda package, it's on page 97. Starts on 97, and then if you look on page 116, kind of gives you the location for the amendment. So this application has been submitted by the Woodwards to amend the land use bylaw from rural agriculture to group country residential to allow for an additional subdivision of one of the parcels in this particular area. Right now there are 3 parcels, and so the larger of the 3 parcels, the landowners are looking to be able to subdivide. In order to do that, they have to meet the terms of the municipal development plan, which is that they would have to rezone to group country residential. The The application would be for the parcel plan 8910736, block 2, lot 5, for the subdivision. And they have prepared a conceptual design scheme to support their redesignation as required under the municipal development plan. The application has been circulated to the county departments and external agencies for review. It is anticipated that we would have the public hearing for this particular bylaw in the beginning of March, so the first meeting in March. With that, the recommendation is that the bylaw 18-032 be read a first time. Any questions from council at this point in time?
No. We have a motion then? Rob?
Yeah.
Move first reading, I guess, as recommended. Second. Call for question, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay, item number 2, which is under bylaws. That's the right one. Bylaw 19-001, Fiorino. Hillary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this application is coming back in front of council. Council may recall that the applicant had previously applied for the same application to rezone a portion of the lands to Group Country Residential, and that was defeated on October the 18th. Council then did grant a waiver of section 53 of the land use bylaw, allowing the applicant to apply for the redesignation again, waiving the 18 months required between applications. And so they have done that, and so before you today is the reapplication to amend the land use bylaw from Lethbridge Urban Fringe to Group Country Residential for a portion of lots 1 and 2, block 2 of plan 0210532. The parcels are located just east of Highway 25 on Township Road 92 and are within the Cooley View Area Structure Plan, which was previously approved by council on June the 7th. The proposed redesignation does conform to the area structure plan, and the proposed amendments, if approved, would allow for subdivision and development of the parcels for country residential use. And the map for, if you wanted to look at the aerials on page 132 of your agenda package. With that, we are recommending that the bylaw 19-001 be read a first time, and the public hearing will likely be held on March the 7th, the first meeting in March.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, would somebody like to make a motion? Hans?
Move that we do first reading.
Any further discussion? Call for the question, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, bylaw 18-007, road closure consolidation. This is on page 135.
You're here for the public hearing?
139.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, councilors. So bylaw 18007 is before you for second and third readings. Administration is requesting county council approve this road closure called consolidation and sale as per bylaw 18007 to Mr. Shane Schutten at a cost of $31,500 for 6.47 acres of land currently designated as empty road rights. Municipal Services recommends that Lethbridge County Council approve second and third readings of bylaw 18007. This will allow us to forward this info to Alberta Land Titles and move forward with this closure and sale. And the description of the land in question is all that portion of government road allowance forming part of Lot 1, Block C, plan number, which is yet to be determined, containing 6.47 acres, more or less, excepting their own mines and minerals. Over the past several years, the county has been attempting to dispose of some of these empty right-of-ways that are not currently being utilized. Mr. Shane Schutten has offered this portion of unused right-of-way as it was identified by Municipal Services as having no further use for the county. This unused right-of-way is currently used as a field access trail and splits two of Mr. Schutten's properties. It was thus logical to offer this portion of unused right-of-way to Mr. Schutten, allowing him to connect his properties and allow Lethbridge County to sell off this unused portion of right-of-way. The reason that we had to wait so long for the minister to return this bylaw after the public hearing was because a utility right-of-way agreement was required from Fortis, Alberta. We now have all the documents we require to move forward with this closure. Mr. Schutten has agreed to pay all survey and registration and land titles fees associated with this closure. The cost again of the land for Lethbridge County's benefit will be $31,500 for 6.47 acres. And that dollar figure came from our assessment. And the final reason and recommendations for this closure is this road closure and consolidation will now allow Mr. Schutten to utilize these lands in a more efficient manner. He can farm right through that right away now. Any questions?
Questions, Scott? Scott, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you just remind us where it is, just by moving the,
Yeah, it's just down the shop road where the Pitcher Butte shop is on.
and then to the east?
And right to the end, yeah. I wish we had our oracles working this morning.
It only doesn't work when you need it.
There we go. There we are. So this is Mr. Schutten's place here, and the right-of-way in question, you can see it splits right down the middle of his pivot here.
Okay.
And so the area in question will be from this line here, right to the road, 6.5 acres.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move second reading on bylaw 18-007.
Any discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Third reading. Norris. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay, let's do bylaw 18-008, road closure, sale and consolidation, Anchor X Cattle Company, non-Brazilian.
Thank you, Mr.
Page,
Chairman.
sorry, page 140 and 144.
Thank you. We're just moving just across the range road here, and it's a continuance of the last bylaw that we saw. Mr. Bezoin owns this parcel here, and we identified that he had built his driveway right down the right of way and some of his outbuildings, so we offered this to him. I'll dive right into the report here. Administration is requesting County Council approve this road closure and consolidation as per bylaw 18-008 to Anchor X Cattle Limited at a cost of $10,500 for 3.98 acres. It is currently designated as unused right-of-way. Municipal Services recommendation is that County Council approves the second and third readings of bylaw 18-008 and hereby closes the following described road, subject to rights of access granted by other legislation pertaining to all that portion of government road allowance forming part of Lot 1, Block A, plan number yet to be determined, containing 1.6 hectares or 3.98 acres, more or less accepting thereof all mines and minerals. Again, over the past several years, we've been tasked with disposing some of these unused right-of-ways, and this one was a logical choice for us to offer to Mr. Bezoyan. And upon hearing the news, Mr. Bezoyan was happy to close, purchase, and consolidate these portions. Municipal Services foresees no future use of this undeveloped right-of-way. Mr. Ron Bezoyan of Anchorex Cattle has agreed to consolidate this right-of-way into his parcel, and that would be the parcel to the south. So all of this will join the parcel to the south. The reason we had to wait so long for the minister to return this bylaw after the public hearing was because a utility right-of-way agreement was required from HAPCO Gas and Pipelines. For the most part, we do not see these requests too often. This is one of the first ones that we've brought forward that required an extra easement. The owner of this property will pay all survey and registration costs, and the cost of purchase to consolidate this road as provided by Lethbridge County Assessor will be $10,500. And finally, our recommendation is this road closure and consolidation will allow Anchorex Cattle to utilize these lands in a more efficient manner. Excuse me. Thank you.
And Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The quarter to the north of Shootins, do they use that access or do they have another access they could use?
I've spoken to Mr. Shane Shooten. The access Councillor Campbell is referring to here is right here. And I've spoken to Mr. Shooten, and he's well aware that barring an agreement with his neighbor to access there, he will have to apply for a possible approach along Range Road 21-4 here, and he's fully aware of that. I know it came up at our public hearing, so. Yeah.
Any other questions? Somebody make a motion for second reading? Horace?
Yeah.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I've got a question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Is somebody willing to move third reading? Bob? Any discussion on that? Going to call the question for third reading. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Would we have time to do? Yeah, before the public hearing. Okay, let's try that. Bylaw 19-002, utility rates, page 145 to 152.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next two bylaws are to do with our annual updates, the utility rates and the schedule of fees bylaws. As per the budget that is slated to be approved later today. So Craig and Jen have gone through the utilities bylaw here and updated this as per what the increases that they included in the budget. The water increase they did include from the city. The city did have a slight increase in their water rates, and that's the only increase that they implemented. There was no increase on the county side of things. So those have all been updated. You'll see on 149 and 50 a bunch of numbers in yellow. And then just further what didn't make it into this draft here on page 149, item 8J, that item, that capital recovery surcharge in the Rave Industrial Park, that item has been paid in full as the property's been sold, so that item is going to be deleted, as well as this the same for the sewer charge on page 150, about the third item down, Rave Industrial Park, lot 9, lot 2. Those items can both come out, as well as Schedule B can be removed as well.
Sorry, what was the second one?
The Rave Industrial Park sewer charge.
Yeah.
that can come out. The two of them were tied together, and when that property was sold, they were both paid off in full. Those were connection fees that were paid to the city.
So that one is $339.81.
Yes.
That comes out.
Yep. And the one for $409.56 on the previous page comes out. And then Schedule B, because that relates to that as well, is now completely paid in full, can also be removed.
Okay.
And just for council's information, we had a general discussion about this with the senior management team, and it's been 5 years since fees and charges have been thoroughly looked at and updated. So that's something we are going to be taking on in 2019 and have staff doing a,
That's in the
sorry,
schedule of fees.
Schedule of fees, yeah.
This is updated annually. This is very up to date, the utility rates.
no, yeah, I'm sorry, schedule of fees, thanks for the clarification there. I'm ahead. Anyway, the schedule of fees bylaw, we do need to review it, and it hasn't been reviewed for 5 years, so staff will be reviewing it in 2019 and bringing it forward, looking at all the scheduled fees and charges to make sure they're in alignment.
Right.
Thanks, Rick.
Normally, every year during budget season, the departments do their internal review of their own schedule of fees changes, but again, it's relating to an external review that we did, kind of comparing what we're charging externally and doing a complete thorough review of that, so we're slating that for 2019.
So wait a minute now.
Sorry.
Talking about.
Yeah, we got ahead a little bit.
So we've got nothing, oh, okay.
Schedule fees,
Yes.
Okay,
number 6.
okay.
So utilities rate bylaw just needs 3 readings today, and as I mentioned, it just does include the increase from the city to pass that along. Any questions?
Any discussion or questions? This move first reading. Bonds. Any discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Second reading. Any discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Carried. Go to third.
Who did you pick?
Sorry?
Who did you pick?
Bob.
Okay. No.
This has to be unanimous to move on. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Sorry, I should have asked for those against. That's carried. And third reading.
Move to.
Any discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay. We have a public hearing scheduled for 10:30. So we'll come back to this one. Okay. We have a public hearing scheduled for 10:30, and it is for bylaw 18-028, Rex Vandenberg. And I'll turn it over to Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the public hearing portion for bylaw 18-028 for Rex Vandenberg. It's for an amendment to the land use bylaw from rural agriculture to rural general industrial for the portion of Northeast 35-1021 west of the 4th. County Council read bylaw 18-028 for the first time on December the 6th of last year. With regards to policy direction, the municipal development plan, section 6.1.2, allows for the development authority to request that an applicant apply for a redesignation if the proposal doesn't meet the standards of the land use bylaw and there would be benefit to having a formal public hearing. The proposed use that Mr. Vandenberg has for the parcel is to construct and develop a berry processing facility. That particular use did not fit within the rural agricultural district. It is a use that we have in our rural general industrial because it's processing, so it's not just storage, it's moving towards value-added product. So with this application, it was submitted to the county for review, and it is located about 1 mile east of the town of Picture Butte, and it is off of Highway 519. And as I mentioned before, the purpose of the proposed application is to allow for a future berry storage and processing facility. The application was circulated to all the county departments and external agencies for review. Comments were submitted by the Lethbridge Northern Irrigation District, Alberta Transportation, and Fortis. The Lethbridge Northern Irrigation District didn't have any concerns with the proposed redesignation and commented on the irrigation acres for the parcel, as typical for the irrigation district. Alberta Transportation's comments were just with regards to the need to have a development application from Alberta Transportation submitted and approved prior to the development being started. Fortis didn't have any concerns, and with the proposal, and the Oldman River Regional Services Commission did provide comments in support of this proposal also. An internal review was completed for the application, and it meets the siting criteria as outlined in section 6.4 of the Municipal Development Plan. The proposed use is adjacent to a highway. It would be a dry corner of the irrigated parcel, and the proposed use is agriculturally related, obviously, with the berry storage and processing, so it's that value added to agriculture. And the proposed use doesn't appear to have any conflict with any of the adjacent land uses. The DeVry greenhouse is to the east, and there is a feedlot, 2 feedlots to the north, one of which is owned by Mr. Vandenberg. With regards to the industrial commercial land use strategy, the proposed redesignation fits within what would be considered an isolated industrial use and meets several locational criteria, including access to a major transportation route, and is compatible with adjacent land uses and has access to services. If the redesignation is approved, the applicant must submit a development permit application, which they have actually already done, and provide the details on the access to potable water, how wastewater would be handled, a grading plan, and a stormwater management plan. So those are all things that are typical for this scale and type of structure for a development permit. I did receive a call from Keith Davis from the town of Picture Butte. I sent a notice of the public hearing to the town of Picture Butte, even though it's outside of the intermunicipal development plan area, just as a courtesy to them. And he indicated that the town has no concerns with regards to this proposal. A notice of the public hearing was advertised in the December 25th and January 1st editions of the Sunny South News, and it was also sent to the adjacent landowners. We've received no comments with regards to the proposal. So with that, administration would recommend that bylaw 18-028 be read a second and a third time. The reasoning for that would be that it meets the siting criteria in both the municipal development plan and the industrial commercial land use strategy as an isolated commercial or industrial use. Are there any questions of council for me at this time?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Did you say that part of this was a dry land pivot corner?
This would
But
be, yeah.
But the Lethbridge Northern Irrigation District letter says it's irrigated. So is all of it irrigated or just?
I think a portion of the area is, so if we scroll in, so the area is about 25 acres in size, and it follows generally kind of around the dry corner, but they must consider some of it irrigable units still. That would be from their letter, which is included in your agenda package.
So Hillary, it's just that top.
It's the top
north.
eastern corner. So their comments are on page 23, Mr. Chairman, of your agenda package.
Morris?
Yeah, thank you. Just to clarify that issue about the LMID doing that, at one time that was irrigated with real lines and all the acres were from fence line to fence line, and now it's a pivot down there, so you automatically have a dry corner, so the LMID might ask for the owner to maybe put up those acres up for sale or keep on paying
They had
on the
used
dry
us to
corner, which a
rearrange.
lot of people do now.
Mhm.
Okay, so they will need water for the processing. Does it need to be potable water? Or will they use the irrigation water to process? Because they're asking sort of in this letter to give up the 24 acres.
So with any type of food processing, Mr. Chairman, you would have to use potable water. You can't use untreated water that could potentially have contaminants in it. So they will have to use potable water. If they wanted to use irrigation water, it would probably be for their exterior landscaping, stuff like that, not for the actual use in the facility.
Okay.
And they do have access, from what I understand, they do have access to some potable water for their process.
Okay, I thought their letter wasn't very clear.
To be fair.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do you accept questions from the floor,
Not at
Mr.
this
Chairman?
time.
Not at this time?
Yeah, I will.
You will?
I will, but not yet.
All right.
Are there any other questions from council? Claus?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amount was, is that correct, was it 24 acres in total?
Yes, that's
So-
what was indicated on the application.
Okay, so then there would be probably around 14 acres of dry there, or you don't have those?
I don't have the exact numbers, that's just where they're anticipating their development and then for future potential expansion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I will ask then if there are any questions from the floor. Yes? Please give your name.
John.
You have to go sit at the front, thank you.
I just have a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman, unless I'm confused here. You said there was a pivot on that piece of land?
Yeah, but I think they got
Have I got
the
the
Wrangler
right?
is here, he could
Yeah,
probably
right, so
explain
I got
it.
the right piece of land, is that the one beside
pivot on
the vet there? Is that the one beside the vet?
No, it's not beside.
Beside the greenhouse.
Beside the greenhouse.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm totally confused then. Okay. I have no question.
John.
Clear as mud.
Happens to the best of us.
Pardon?
That happens to the best of us.
Well, I don't know why I thought this, and so did several of the other people. But when you said there's 24 acres, I thought, well, how can there be 24 acres? I drive that, it ruled every day. But I have no questions, but it's interesting. Thank you for your time.
No problem. That was an easy question to answer. Any other questions? No other questions? Council have any last questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
those that wishing to speak in favor of the application?
Oh, sorry, those wishing to speak in favor of the application.
I've been helping Rice put this project together on the development side.
Can you just state your name, sorry, for the record?
It's Bryce Stinson with Westco Construction. Just a couple of points I'd like to maybe help answer your questions on it. As far as the water goes, he has 2 units with the water co-op, and we talked with them, so the processing falls under their guidelines as a usable, the water is usable for the processing. The actual need for the water is going to only be for a couple months of the year while it's actually in the harvest, and it's basically washing most of the produce. The Huska berry requires very little maintenance as far as any chemical treatment to it. So the washing of it is just basically to clean them a little bit in the processing. It will be all carried on, or the cisterns will hold it, and so any wastewater coming off of it will just be used for irrigation, landscaping, on-site type of thing. We are looking at possibly recycling some of that water to minimize production. The water that's available will be more than enough to service it now and in the future. Hopefully, as the industry grows, they will be able to. It'll be more than enough just by increasing the cisterns to put the water at the time. The vehicle traffic in the area, there will be a minor increase during harvest, which will coincide with a regular increase of traffic in the area, probably about the same time haying happens in the area. And as far as the traffic leaving the processing site, you'd be looking at 4 to 6 trucks a month, 1 a week-ish type of thing, would be all that would be leaving the site. The site's going to have a freezer storage on it, so basically it's an added value processing to the berry. There's no real additives, it's just a matter of freezing it, and it'll just to allow it to be better sold and better shipped around the world. The history of the Huska berry, it's quite interesting. The research I was doing on it, and it is something that's around the world has been, especially Russian, Asia area, and Japan. I mean, this is a product that has a lot of health benefits historically in those areas. Presently, the North American market is starting to take off and starting to grow. This is a great opportunity for an ag industry in southern Alberta to develop. The crop takes very little to develop it. Once it's established, it requires very little water. The other part of it is one of the bigger reasons that Rex would like to build this facility here is to help stabilize and then create a solid foundation for the development of the market and the growth that's coming with it. It's centralized with the growers in Western Canada. It'll be a great added value to the area. There should be the area is ideal for the growth of this market. And it's since about 1990s, the health benefits have been really starting to be recognized. And it's not so much as a berry product as an additive to drinks and juices and food products. So we see there being a great opportunity to add another ag industry into southern Alberta with it. We've done some initial surveying of the property there. I know there's issues with the stormwater in that area. The location of the building, that building area is a high spot where the buildings, there's going to be a minimal amount of elevation change on there, so it's really not going to affect any of the stormwater. There'll be a minimal amount which can easily be redirected in that area. It won't change that. The size of the development is still is not a definite size at this point, it can be reduced down. It's still part of what we are looking into, if there's concerns with the irrigation. I mean, we can, the majority of those acres are just the corner. It's not necessarily the processing site, so it's probably twice the size of what would be required. And the way we've set the building, it will not impact a lot of the area. Right now, there's a hay storage there, so we're not really going to be changing the look of it there. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Are there any questions?
Yes, any question? Yes, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The shape of it, the triangular shape, is that more to accommodate the remaining land for the pivot to work properly?
Yes, that was just, it isn't established yet, so there is another subdivision on that corridor that's, upon approval, that subdivision will be put back to the corridor, and then we would reapply to subdivide that corridor. So, there's a lot of flexibility in that sizing. The actual processing site, where the building's going to be sit on that corridor, is probably, the approach is right there, so it should be just about there. We've set it back a ways, which allows, there's gas lines there, there's water lines there. We're just trying to minimize that impact there, and also minimize the need to adjust the elevations in the land there. That is a high spot in that corner there. So it required, because of the irrigation, we could easily tighten up the corners, but that initial sizing was more of a, just fits in the corner where we drew up. So it's not necessarily a triangle, it's sort of two little legs on the corner, right?
Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? And last call, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Any last comments or questions from council? Rick?
I just think one thing we have to look into is the water use for processing on those units. I just have to check the license and make sure that the information we got from the North Co-op is correct. I do have a request out right now. It was not part of this circulation to get comment from the North Co-op. It will be part of the development agreement at the time. So water will be part of the development agreement at the time. I hazard a guess that the license does not require bodily use for processing, but we will check into it.
Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've been on the understanding that the co-op was for residential use, so that's where you're.
I have a request, I just sent it out, but I don't have a response yet, so.
Yeah, thank you.
It's something that will come up at the time of development.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in that licensing agreement, it does mention processing as part of it.
Yeah, the licensing agreement with who?
What's that?
With who?
With, it's their water license that co-op has with, is it through the county or through the province, through the county?
So we're in the process of reviewing that right now, so we'll get a response to you on that.
Okay. Morris?
Yeah, just a comment, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That issue is basically a North County Potable Water Co-op issue. It's, they know how to deal with it, and I'm sure they know what to do on that end of it, and I don't think that's any of our concern as this time.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, could we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Close.
Any other questions? Those in favor? opposed, carried. We can now, Ellery, you got any last comments?
Nothing substantial, Mr. Chairman, just that with regards to, once again, if this is approved, if the redesignation is approved, they will carry on with the development permit application, as I mentioned, which includes all of the matter of the water, the grading, the stormwater, and how they would be handling any waste, if there is any. So that's already been discussed with the applicant, and so they're well aware of those things that they would have to verify at the development permit stage. So with that, as mentioned, we would recommend second and third reading of this bylaw.
Thank you. Any next questions from yes, Steve? I'm gonna ask Steve, Tori. I'm gonna have to separate you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make a comment. I thought Mr. Vandenberg did a great job. Mr. Vandenberg and his daughter on the Sustainable Ag Tour that the county put on in the fall. I thought it was really interesting, and it's exciting to see a development like this in the county. And I'm happy that you're moving forward with it on the processing side of things, and things are moving forward. So I'd like to move second reading at this time.
Any further discussion? Call for the question, those in favor? Those opposed, carried. Who wants to do third? For the clause. Any discussion on that? Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, and as Tori has said, I think it's a great thing to happen in the county, and I think the potential is great, so thank you. Yeah. Okay, let's move back down to page 153 to 166. Schedule of fees, bylaw 19-003.
Just want to get a comment from Hillary about
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2019 scheduled fees bylaw starts on page 153. There is only a slight change to this. Okay, scheduled fees bylaw for 2019. The only changes to this year was a very modest increase in international landing fees at the airport for 2019. And that is on page 163. Like I said, it was a 2% increase that was factored into the budget. Health departments do review these at budget time, all of these fees. As mentioned earlier, we will be doing an external review of these rates this year. But the only changes factored in was to that international landing fee. It's the only change I have to report.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was this a request from the city, the owner of the airport, to increase the fees, or?
No, it was included in Scott Lawrence's 2019 budget, so we just followed through with it. I imagine next year all of these fees will be removed from our fees bylaw and they'll go into their fees bylaw.
Is that within our, I guess, mandate to increase fees as just the operator, not as the owner?
Yeah, I would think so, as long as it's factored into the budget, because we did present the budget to them.
Okay.
So they've seen it and they knew there was a 2% increase in.
Okay.
Like I said, it's very small. I think the entire thing it amounts to less than $1,000 in revenue. So I just figured normally there's a lot of other changes taking place in the scheduled fees bylaw. Had we known at that time there was nothing, we might not have even presented it, just left it is, but.
Yes. Let's move it. Sorry, I get the right name this time. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Sorry, you have to read it 3 times?
Yes, it's a bylaw.
Oh, sorry. Any discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Go to third.
Yeah.
Morris? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And third. Who? You?
We're getting worn out. You're a small member, buddy.
Those in favor of third reading? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to sit here for a little longer.
Martin's gonna do it.
Oh, no, it is.
You want to do community services
What?
first? Yeah, we do budget now. Maybe we should do budget. Whatever you want. I don't. Let's do community services.
Thank you.
Oh, no, we're changing mine again. Our Canada Premier Food Coordinator, letter of support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council. I do apologize for this late item, but it's quite light. Last Thursday, the now named Canada's Premier Food Corridor Group, which is a group of municipalities and economic development officers between the city of Lethbridge and the town of Taber, got together and discussed our next steps with regards to developing an agri-food corridor along Highway 3. One of the things that came up was that there is a Canadian Agricultural Partnership grant that's available. The closing date is this Friday. So there was some talk about whether we could make that deadline or not to apply for this grant. We've decided to go for it, and we put the application together and are now looking for letters of support. This grant, the letter of support would not obligate the county to anything other than to say that the county is in favor of this grant being awarded at this corridor. What the grant would be used for, if it's obtained, is for studying and developing a communications plan, a marketing plan, material and so forth to promote this area to relevant businesses and government entities to see further development there. So it's largely a promotional thing. So if council sees so fit, I've provided a draft letter that could be used. All it would really require, if council votes in favor, is a signature.
Any questions? Any questions for Martin? I think it's a great idea. Somebody care to make a motion? Any further discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carry out. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of council.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Martin. Okay, let's move down to J1, pages 167 to 171, 2019 to 2021 operating budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you know, deliberations were held at the end of November and into December for the 2019 to 2021 operating and capital budget. Council did approve the 2019 capital budget in December. And with a few suggestions for modification, we are bringing back draft, I guess, 3 of this operating budget for council's approval. We did change, changes that we did make were to wages, salaries, and benefits line. We incorporated the 0% on the administration wages. We incorporated a 0.5% on union wages, and held the line on council's wages as well. So that's all been factored into this budget changes, because we had previously presented with 2% increases across the board. I realize the agreement was not finalized right now, but I think our direction was to bring it back with that 0.5% in there. So that does bring the tax support down slightly. We would be looking at just over $15 million in tax support, and the increase from last year would be at 1.028% before growth, with 0.127% after growth, so basically 0 after growth. Slightly above. Are there any questions? Sorry, we also did, between then and now, we did receive our rate increases from our benefit providers. We had factored in 2%, it came in at 2.4, so we did account for that as well, that little 0.4% increase, as well as there were merit increases applied from the grid, but not COLA increases. And the CAO's contract was also changed and implemented as well into this budget.
Any questions? Any questions? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to move the recommendation for the 2019 operating budget expenses in the amount of 28 million, let's try, 42,565, as outlined in attachment 1 be approved. And then are we do this all at one, Tracy?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. And 2020 and 2021 operating budget in the respective amounts be approved in principle as well.
Any discussion? Call for question, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Waiting for Glenn Henry yet.
Oh, okay. Let's do administration's SMRD letter of support. And that was a handout. I believe. No. No, it's not. 172. 175. Are you dealing with that, Amber?
Number.
SMRD?
That's Rick.
Rick?
Alright, so the St. Mary's River Irrigation District is supporting requesting a letter of support for the Canadian Agricultural Partnership Emergency Preparedness Program, otherwise known as the CAP-EPP. Application for funding to complete emergency preparedness plans for the Stafford and Northeast Reservoir Dam sites. So a letter dated January 9th, 2019 from SMRD was received by the county. Ken Stacy, SMRD, is applying for this CAP-EPP program for funding to complete their emergency preparedness plans. Council and administration have always strived to work collaboratively with the SMRD and supports their initiatives in all aspects of emergency preparedness with public safety as their #1 priority. Lethbridge County Administration recommends that the county provide a letter of support for them in their application for funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the emergency preparedness plan, is that mainly for flooding, or what, do you know what it kind of includes?
Typically, it would include all types of emergency, but I think this one mainly would focus for, because it's a dam, on flooding and emergency events. It would probably also include drought and those type of emergency preparedness as well.
So, Rick, just a question, what effect would this have, if any, or how would it be tied to overland flooding in the county?
Well, I think there was a lot of, in the last flood in 2014, when some of that flooding happened, the high river stuff and the water coming our way through the rivers, and the fact that they were getting close to breaching and they may have had to let the water go. They would know flood elevations, they would know when those things would have to happen, instead of some guy just deciding at the time, you know, hey, I gotta open the floodgates and let her rip. Those type of things, having the data and the knowledge of when to make those tough decisions, I think is going to be part of the emergency preparedness plan, as well as it may identify areas that are prone to flooding during those events as well.
Buzz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, you mentioned there too that I can see that the flooding and everything could be a big problem, that we need emergency preparedness for that, but how did you tie in the drought into that one?
So this is for an emergency preparedness plan. I would think that they're gonna have in their plan, they would have what they're gonna do during wildfires and what they're gonna do during flood events and what they're gonna do. Our emergency plan is encompassing of all things. It could even identify things like terrorist threats and pandemics and all sorts. You have to be prepared for all of these emergencies. So if there was a drought, what would they be doing in their emergency preparedness plan? They would have a section. I would assume that that's what they would do, because that's your emergency preparedness plan prepares you for all types of emergencies. And what you identify in that plan is the steps you would take during those events. So things like a pandemic, if they had nobody to operate the dam sites that were trained, what would they do? Those type of things. So typically an emergency event, and it's all encompassing. So that's I just threw that one in there because it's something that is looming on the horizon potentially.
The bottom line is, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
That at least it is, we're going forward with a plan with the adjoining irrigation district, and that is the main thing.
Yeah, so the county has been legislated to have an emergency preparedness plan for decades now. I'm assuming they're trying to bring the other major operators like irrigation districts into line with stuff like that. So that's why they're providing funding now for them to have these big plans. We've been forced into that, Larry, I think probably 20 years maybe. So at least longer. In Manitoba, it was about 15 or 20 years ago they mandated that. It may have been longer here, I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your explanations. I will move that we forward a letter of support to the SMRID.
Any further discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Let's do Southern Alberta waste to energy.
Good afternoon. We've had a request from SAWA for an increase in fees. Lethbridge County has been a member of SAWA since 2010. The current amount that we pay to SAWA is 40 cents per capita. And when we saw our population increase, we did increase that as well. They're now requesting 53 cents per capita, and this would equate to a yearly amount of $5,487.09. I know through our process when we did our committee meetings, it did come up about SEWA, and I am going to turn it over to Councillor Van der Veen just for a little bit more background on SEWA. And I would recommend that perhaps we get a representative to come and talk to council so that we can see where they're at and also the value of the organization to the county.
Thank you, Ann. Yeah, to say well, with the increase that they have, we haven't had an increase since 2013, I guess. So, and we need to be able to operate and do our due diligence in order to keep the SEWA afloat. I don't know if most people, because I think we all got the life cycle analysis, and I don't know if anybody went through those. It's quite a big piece of paper to go through. But we are right now. We were at the verge of being able to determine the site that we're going to be doing it at. We've had multiple people or big companies have approached us to make major investments, like $500 million to set up one of these projects. And what we have done in the past was we got the whole life cycle analysis. We got that done. Total cost for everything was around $3.5 million. The other thing is that if we would not be able to go ahead, we are not losing any money on it because we were offered over $3.5 million already for all the preparedness and everything that we've done for the energy from waste. Right now, I think we're at the point that we are moving forward. I think it would be we put an investment in here in the last 9-10 years. I think that it would be a loss if we would jump out of it right now because we are so close to getting something done. And I also think that with everything that we have, that I actually have to come back to. There's so many other counties and MDs in the time that had counties, MDs, and urban sites, and they have pulled out over the last couple of years. And there is a lot of requests coming in that they want to come back in and that they want to join. They're seeing that there's progress being made, and it's too bad that nobody was able to attend the annual general meeting that we had in Champion in the fall, because there we would have more outlined of where we are and what we're doing, and getting a person out here from the executive, and that would probably be the Paul Ryan. And I know we've had him here for about a year ago. We had him here, and I don't know if that was satisfactory to people as to where we are and what we've all done. But I think that I would encourage us to stay on track and don't be sorry, after a couple of years, say now they got things going and we backed out. So I would encourage us to go ahead and stay with it and approve the 13 cents.
Any questions? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what would be the timeline, I guess, first of naming or picking the site to build?
We are in the process of determining that, and we have set it up that way that the site is going to be in the area where we're going to have the least transportation moving, and we're going to have a site close to major electrical supply and water, and so that we have those main things, and major main highways that we can access it properly with the transportation of the solid waste that is going to be going there. And like we said too, we're gonna be, it's basically, it's trying to make, we're gonna make heat from the energy that we have probably into steam, what it looks like. And if you, I don't know if there was any pictures of the life cycle analysis. The buildings that were there are, because you think big with smokestack and everything like that, the buildings that are going to be prepared for that. There's one in BC going, there's one in Ontario going, and down south there are a couple going. Germany has a couple going already, and a lot of the people in Alberta that are looking into energy from waste are really impressed with how far we are, because before we started, everybody knew that it would be a long time before we had everything done, and we don't always have the cooperation from governments, and especially right now we didn't have the cooperation that we thought we were going to get, and we're kind of disappointed in that. And I don't know if it's because they didn't invent this kind of thing or what it was, but anyway, we hope that that in the future is going to be a lot better.
Go ahead, Steve.
So can we look forward to an announcement of site location in a month or two, or what would be the timeline?
I can't answer that one because I can't give you a time on that one, but we are in the process of going to be determining a site in the very, very near future.
Any other questions?
Well, just, do I make a...
Yes, Morris?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. You know, this thing has been going on for 10 years now or more, I think, and we heard the song and dance that were really close onto being established, and we're hearing that right now again. However, I gotta say, you know, what come out of the presentation, mainly from you, Councillor Claus, whatever your last name is. But anyways, it does make sense. Maybe we are a lot closer now, and for the increase, that 13 cents that we need, you know, well, I guess that is not the big issue. The big issue is, you know, is this whole thing feasible? And we seem to have, as an individual, myself, you know, we seem to have doubts about that. And it's, the big reasons for that is, how come the big cities are not online, you know? And I'm talking about the city of Lethbridge and also the city of Calgary. If this is a great feasible thing to go into, you know, why aren't they there?
Just to comment to that one, the city of Calgary are kind of, they were the ones that would be offering us a lot of money for all the work that we've done, because they are kind of interested, they want to do their own thing. The city of Lethbridge, I don't know exactly what happened in the past that they pulled out, but part of it was that they were starting here with the landfill. They were going to increase that, and they were, Tori and I and the rest of the regional waste from our area here are going to go there, I think it's the 8th of February or something like that. And we're going to look at that, and that'd be really interesting to see what they're doing there. And I guess they're going to have facilities for composting and all those kind of things. But the end of the matter is still that the majority of the solid waste is going to be put in the ground. And I think that personally, and the group of SEWA also, is we are hoping to make a difference in that we're not stuffing this stuff in the ground anymore, because we've seen it in Europe and all over the place, the contamination that is being done with all this, and these are the kind of things that the next generation is going to be dealt with, that they have to fix. So I think in that regards, I think that we do the right thing, and I think this is just the right thing to do with the energy. The greenhouse gases we are going to be taking care of about 7 million tons of greenhouse gases, and that is tremendous amount that, you know, that everybody is really surprised about, that hears about it. But like I say, if you want more information on the whole thing yet, and we could also have Paul Ryan come back here, and but I don't know if that's necessary.
Any other questions? If not, we should move on.
You need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll move then that we approve the extra to snow.
Don't want to go with the recommendation, you just want to go ahead and do it?
But just a minute, I can look this way. Oh, yeah, no, use that, that makes sense over here. Use that here.
So just for clarification, the motion says inviting a SAWA board member to attend and provide an update and give reasons for the increase in the per capita rate. Is that the motion that council wants to go with?
I'll make that.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Ross?
So are we voting on getting somebody out here from the executive?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Call for the question, those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Should we use the Alberta Health Services? Where's the handout?
There's been a request from Alberta Health Services to have a volunteer member join their advisory council in our area. We've been through quite a few background reports and information since 2010, when the ambulance service changed to a regional board, a more regional ambulance services. There's been a lot of challenges here in our area and in Southern Alberta in general, getting ambulance to our residents. We've noticed through the review of the fire services with the Urbans and with the city of Lethbridge and in the county that roughly 70% of our fire calls are ambulance related, first responders. And these costs are not being compensated by the province, and we are paying for part of those costs through the fire services agreements that we have with the Urbans. So those costs are being downloaded to us in Lethbridge County. I think it would be prudent for us to have somebody on this board so issues like this and other issues could be addressed. The board is fully paid for, it's compensated for whatever member wants to sit on the board. We do have a neighboring MD that has chosen, because the province does not compensate for those ambulance calls, just to not respond to them. And then we have other municipalities close to us that do respond and just pay for the calls through the fire service. So to me, in my mind, this is an area that we need to lobby the government with, and one of the ways we can do this is through this advisory board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would suggest on this one that we would put one of our people on there that are on emergency services already. I think that would probably make sense to have one of our members that is sitting on that do that.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Well, he's not here, it's easy.
He's the chairman.
So
Otherwise, I do it if you want.
Oh.
I have been to them in the past, but not very many.
And you're really familiar with the emergency because you've sat on as an ex officio too as well, so.
Morris, you
Well, though that I had the recommendation, but the thing is, you took that all the way with offering being down there, so thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I saw the tracks, but I laid them out too.
Well, Campbell, speak up.
Do you guys want to have, I don't mind if either one of you want to do it, so.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Either way, I think it's important that we have someone, so I move the recommendation that we appoint a member. Who that member is and how we decide that, I see as less important, but yeah, I would definitely think we should support this and have someone on there.
Okay.
Yeah, and if the Reed's interested, I would say that the Reed's could serve as that member then.
Okay, and then just a comment, and if not, if the Reed can't make it, maybe one of them of the Emergency Service Committee can attend. Somebody should be there at all.
And the meetings are quarterly, so they're manageable. They're not monthly, they're quarterly, so.
And they talk about a lot of different things, so it is kind of interesting. Anyway, if no further discussion, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, we have a 11:30 appointment. You might have to move in with Sergeant Van Henry from Coaldale and Sergeant Tom Hall from Richfield. So if you'd like to come on up.
Yes, perfect spot for it.
Good morning. Good morning. Marty, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Tom. Just said myself, maybe I can start off or lead off. First of all, my apologies. I sent some applications, Lorraine, here really short notice here on our annual performance plan. So I'm not sure if people had a chance to have a look at that. I also added some of the rural stats from the Coaldale catchment area as well, just as for some information to generate any type of conversation if you guys have questions or concerns. So I'm not really necessarily coming before you with a prepared report per se, but open to any type of questions you guys have based on what I presented in written form.
Are there any questions?
Well, not so much of a question, Mr. Chairman, if I may. It looks like if you follow the media a little bit, that's on on TV, the news, on the TV, and also the newspapers. And it sounds like to me, media really picking up where the RCMP stands on rural crime, and it looks like finally they admitting, hey, maybe you guys are short-handed, but you're doing as much as you can, and you're doing a good job. Personally, I think. But finally, the media is picking this up and reporting on it, and I think they're doing a good job.
Thank you. Yeah, and the stats that I provide you are yearly stats, year-end stats actually, and the stats are for 2018, 2017, 2016, 15, and 14, so you can see yourself kind of the trends where we're at. And I think, the rural crime issue that's province-wide is an issue, but it's also based on certain locations, so some locations are getting more rural crime than others. So I think this snapshot of stats kind of gives you an idea based on the different types of offenses that we had, for where we're at. As an example, and I'm just talking about the Coaldale rural detachment area, mischief to property, we had in 2015, 50 calls for service, and went to 64 in 2016, down to up to 72 in 2017, and then down to 66. So we're going to see those stats fluctuate. So I think the important part here is not to get excited about small fluctuations, but to try to track some long-term Speaking of media, we happen to have one behind us here, so I sent out a media release this morning. I'm not sure if council's aware of a recent incident we had with a white truck and a fellow that decided to steal a truck from the Pitcher Butte area, I believe last Thursday. That truck was through the weekend. I think we got 4 calls from residents about that truck being in the rural areas, trying to steal the fuel, that kind of stuff. On Monday morning, we got a call at about 5:30 that someone was with a white truck abandoned in a rural area just off of Highway 512. 2 of our RCMP members from Coaldale went to that scene and parked a police force in front of that truck and went to the driver who was sleeping or passed out. The driver woke, saw us, decided to put his vehicle in gear, and it was turned to be a stolen vehicle from Pitcher Butte. Rammed and pushed our police vehicle out of the way, and then off they went. We got another theft of a vehicle probably within that area shortly right after. It wasn't reported till about 2:30 in the afternoon. Based on that information, that vehicle was spotted again by a rural resident calling us about things out of the ordinary in their community, which is what we want. That's the rural feedback we're looking for. And that was in the Chin Tempest area, and that resulted in a response from the Taber Detachment, Pitcher Butte Detachment, Coaldale Detachment, and we followed that vehicle to the east Stafford Lake area, and subsequently arrested a male on the west side of Stafford Lake, and he ran into a garage. So the reason why I bring it up is that these are kind of maybe high-profile stuff that the media will pick up on. It's the day-to-day stuff that we're doing, but I think the real key here, from my perspective, is great support from our local media, and that we had a picture from our dash cam from our police car that was around that put the name out of the person. We got real good feedback on who it was right away, and then the community helped us a lot by keep calling us, and what we're saying to you, and we want you to take back to your citizens, is keep calling us. That stuff helps us. Those suspicious vehicles turn into us finding people and arresting people and stalking some thefts. So I think we're looking at about 10 criminal charges in this particular instance, and this is not out of the ordinary. We're getting this on a regular basis. So it just happens to be a bit of a success story in that nobody got hurt other than $5,000 damage to a police car, but lots of people with theft of gas and stolen vehicles and damaged vehicles, that kind of stuff, but nobody was hurt, which is really important. So again, that kind of maybe ties into your question about rural crime and perceptions. Doesn't mean the world's coming to an end, but things are still happening out there. One of the things I try to impress on the people in the Stafford Lake area is you have to help us. You got to take your keys out of your vehicles. You got to lock up your sheds. You got to lock up your stuff. We can't live in the world of 1960 where we're just leaving things open. People do come to rural areas and do steal from us.
Just in support of what Stafford Henry says, we had a spike in property crime in November as a result of one person. He had committed over almost 30 different offenses, one person. And so we had stealing vehicles, he was dumping vehicles, he was going to people's property, one property 3 times. So the home landowners were able to, when they were there at the time. So a lot of these times, this type of offenses are occurring with a very small percentage of individuals. And that's why our district here in Southern Alberta has this crime reduction unit. They are targeting these prolific offenders who are doing the vast majority of these property offenses. And I do believe it is working. I know there's other districts are saying the same thing, but by going after these individuals proactively, we're able to try to put a dent in some of the property crime that's happening. And like Stefan said, there's waves and it comes in spikes and it comes and goes. Right after we picked that guy up in November, everything just sort of settled right down. So it's quite clear that certain individuals are causing the majority of the problems that we have. Recently, we had a rash of break-and enters of some travel trailers up in Peel Lake area, like 75 trailers open into. But nobody lives there and they're all left there and unattended. So these are things that Staff Sergeant Henry says people have to take a little more time to protect themselves a bit. Police can't be everywhere. And so by getting it out in the media and promoting this sort of crime prevention stuff, I think we are overall making a dent in property crime issues in our area. So at this point in time, I can say our statistics in the area have decreased over the last 5 years, but it could go up again, up and down. But traditionally, there's no real trend here happening at this point. It just goes up and down occasionally with these individuals looking offenders.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, like, I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, everything like that, and, you know, it's something probably overwhelming, and you probably don't have enough manpower to be able to do everything, like you referred to before. But I'm looking at something else that I see on a regular basis happening, and that is people leaving their vehicles running, standing in front of the store or whatever they're there. Yesterday, for example, I went to town, I had to do some stuff in town and stuff like that, so I came back an hour later, that vehicle was still running. And we have so many vehicles that are running with the kids in there and everything like that. And is that something that you guys do look at, like to try to improve that? Because I mean, look, even the environment and everything like that of letting the big diesel just putter along there for an hour. I mean, it's for me it's unacceptable anyway. So I just wondering, you probably don't have time for that, but do you look at that?
Well, I think I can speak for Staff Sergeant Henry. Yes, we do. And if people report these vehicles that are running unsecured, we do look under the Traffic Safety Act and some elements there to deal with the registered owner or driver. So we do want to hear about these things. I'd like to see it not happen as much. We all hear about it happening. We scratch our heads why people are continuing to do it. They know, if they're listening to the media or out there in social media, that they know that this is an opportunity, a crime opportunity waiting to happen. I came from British Columbia there for 22 years, and we ran into a lot of issues in Surrey along those lines. People starting their vehicles up, warming them up, and then come back out, the vehicle's gone. Right? And so, I guess it's sort of, in my mind, why insurance companies aren't, if people are having their vehicles stolen and they're not secure, why they're not being proactive with their clients and saying, if you do that, you may not be covered. So people have to start learning not to do that. I mean, I think it's getting better, but there's still people doing it, and we can contribute that to a number of reported offenses. People leaving their vehicles running and someone hopping in and driving off. So you're right. So it's a serious problem, and it's education. We don't like to do enforcement on those things. I'm hoping education will be the one that changes that behavior.
There might be a blend there too, of some enforcement, but some municipalities, some rural jurisdictions will pass bylaws about idling. Just because a vehicle's idle, it doesn't mean it's not necessarily locked up either, you know, it could be both, same thing. But I think what Sergeant Howell was saying is surely goodness in this day and age, people need to understand that vehicles are being stolen. And hopefully the education part, still part with insurance claims, that type of thing, that might change behaviors. But it's a very long process to change these type of behaviors.
Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the property crime, you hear more and more land or homeowners setting up cameras or in their yard or around their house. Is that a deterrent to criminals at all, and is it also any assistance to you guys in investigating? Like, can you use those images?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's private property, but you bring up a good question. And I was actually stopped the other day by a fellow who says he's a homesteader up west of Knowlford, and he approached me and said, you know, I'm getting tired of people coming in my yard, and I'm not sure what they're there for lawful reasons or not unlawful reasons, and what should I do? And again, what we get back to is education and what can you do as a citizen, what should you be doing as a citizen. So the very first thing I said to him was what you just mentioned, cameras, security cameras, the costs are going down, the quality are getting better. In this day and age, Great idea. Trail cams, take still photos when you're not there, fantastic idea. I threw out some other suggestions to him about if people are driving into his yards, is there I'm not knowing what his layout was, can you maybe put a gate across your driveway and close that at night so people aren't coming into your yard or if you're not there, that type of thing. You know, you can look at, you know, having a security dog if you feel, you know, there's issues of safety for your family, that kind of stuff. So I think everybody has to take into account their own personal situation. There's lots of information out there on the internet, lots of information about how to protect yourself and your property. People should be educating themselves and taking steps that they feel is appropriate to their circumstance. Most certainly, we use the digital camera from our car to identify a person who was stealing from us. It would have been great if anybody of the 4 complaints we had over the weekend had a photograph of the guy in the truck ahead of time. Maybe we could have got this guy earlier and prevented more harm. So by all means, surveillance video, still pictures is excellent for us.
Thank you. We share all that with our neighboring police forces and detachments regularly. I mean, seeing that the Suffolk Henry just brought up about an apprehension of a guy that had a white pickup. I mean, he had pushed away a police vehicle. He was, you know, that thing was taken out, sent to also Leffler City Police, who know all their offenders, and not just the communities themselves, but other police forces. And we have regular meetings, intelligence meetings, once a month, with all the police forces and all the police RCP detachments in the area. We compare notes. We compare, you know, methods that bad guys are using, if they're similar, and we talk. And a lot of times that bears fruit because, you know, we can track people down a little easier knowing what they're doing and when they're doing it. A lot of times we don't know these offenders who are in custody get out of custody, have done their sentence and they're back out and doing something. We don't know about it until they've actually done it. And so, by talking to other police agencies, police forces, we do get that information sometimes before they do something. So there's a lot of information sharing that goes on, tremendous amounts, and I think that contributes to our ability to pick these people up.
Marsh?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the Rural Crime Watch organization is really coming back to the forefront again, and I guess Picture View just established the Rural Crime Watch back into business again. Like years ago when it was on the I was a pretty active member myself, so I'm glad to see that again. Yeah.
Yes, it's a general meeting. It started at, I guess, probably earlier this year, and I had a meeting and I had a group that were motivated to set up a Rural Crime Watch Association called Picture View in the area, which encompasses the county as well as all the communities in between and hamlets involved, mostly in the north part of the county. But tomorrow we have a general meeting, and we're hoping through a media list that we're going to have a number of people attend to sign up for this association. And I guess Vanessa is the president, and there's a number of people in the area that are joined on. So we're hoping to have a good turnout tomorrow night and starting a membership drive. So, yeah, I think it's something that's worthwhile. We're going to leverage technology to assist people. Everyone has smartphones. It's a system where everybody can be interconnected on doing it. Like basically, everyone watch through phones. And, so we're going to hope to see that bears fruit here tomorrow night. I'm hoping for a good turnout. There's been a lot of work and effort put into it by the group that are now running it. I'm just sort of on the sidelines, cheering them on and giving them advice. They're the ones driving it. And, yes, I'm hoping that this will come bear fruit tomorrow night.
At what time is that tomorrow night?
7:30 at the community center in Picture View.
Great.
Any other questions? Making this fairly easy.
Your line is off easy. maybe just end this by providing you information about myself. I will be dealing with some knee issues at the end of the month, and I should be off for another period of time. But there'll be a corporal, Paul Bedard from Fort McLeod, who lives in the area, will be acting in my presence when I'm gone, I should say. We'll continue on with everything I've been doing at the detachment.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I know that it's never an easy task to catch up to all the perpetrators of acts, because they have 24 hours a day to plan and do everything they can, but I think that you're doing a good job, and I think our CPOs, when they can, are letting you know the things that we find out and they hear. So hopefully we can continue that relationship and work to solving a few more of our unpleasantries, which we unfortunately occur. But all I can say is keep up the good work, and if we can, I think we talked about this once before, but if there's some clerical work or something we could help you out with, I'm sure we'd be more than willing to look at that for the budgeting process and get that underway, because I can only imagine the amount of paperwork that an officer has to do to get something happening after you do arrest somebody, and to go through all that. I mean, for me, it would take forever and a day to do that simple amount of work, because the way I type is unbelievably slow. But yeah, even if that good. So like I say, if we can help out, please, we need to sit down and do that, because we're more than willing to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I guess you're going to join us for lunch?
Absolutely.
Good. So if we can have a motion to accept the report for Morris? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now we need a motion to go to lunch. I guess you might as well go.
Moved up.
Yes.